Today we're talking about how to manage multiple interests and responsibilities in a society that is hyper-specialized. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, our society tends to favor focusing on one specific thing and becoming very, very proficient at one specific thing. That is what typically yields the most reward, at least financially. Think of a neurosurgeon, right? Somebody who spends 10 years post-secondary getting an education on one specific thing. Think of somebody who practices law, right? Law is the one specific thing that they're very proficient in. Now, these things that tend to be very rewarding financially do take up a lot of time and energy. And a lot of people fall into the path of hyper-specialization, even though they have other interests and they have other hobbies that can tend to fall to the wayside. Now, if you are someone who is having a hard time keeping these hobbies, keeping these interests in your life, and are finding it to be a little bit soul-sucking, for lack of a better word, a little bit like it's robbing you of your natural joy, well, I promise you, you are not alone. The fact that society tends to reward hyper-specialization does not mean that that is what we are more drawn towards as human beings. As human beings, we are very expansive and creative, and we really like to get our hands into many things and learn as much as we can. And it can be very easy to fall in love with a few different things, not just one specific discipline. Now, that's not an absolute. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are very happy with specialization, but I know I am not one of those people. I know I have many interests, many hobbies, and I have taken on many responsibilities. And if you're watching this video, I'm willing to bet that you are too. Otherwise, you wouldn't have clicked it. And you're not alone. There's many people just like you. I am definitely one of these people who also has many interests and responsibilities. And over the last few years, I've begun to struck a very nice balance that feels very sustainable and very fulfilling. I am a musician. I play the piano and saxophone, but these days it's mostly the piano that I'm still working on refining my skills at and enjoying playing in general. I am a YouTuber. I have a dedication to making content. I'm a martial artist. I train jiu-jitsu 4 to 5 times a week. I'm someone who lifts weights regularly. I don't yet make a full-time income off of YouTube, so to pay my bills, I'm still working part-time as a dog walker. I have a dedication to self-development, learning, and perfecting my craft, which involves a lot of reading, a lot of self-reflection, a lot of meditation. Recently, I've also added developing a piece of raw land that my partner and I purchased earlier this year. I also have a big value in friends and family and recreation, so I make sure that I have time to spend time with friends and family and simply enjoy myself in their company and whatever activities or meals that we are partaking in. So, not in order, those are the things that I value. Those are the things that I choose to dedicate my time to. I think I've struck a pretty good balance over the years. So we're going to get into what it is that I've done to get to a good place with managing all those different interests and responsibilities in this video. Well, first things first is you have to confront a bit of an obvious but uncomfortable truth if you've never directly had this thought or insight. You cannot do everything. We all have the same 24 hours in a day, and that is a finite amount of time. We don't get to live forever in this lifetime, and we can only do so much while we're here. So with that being said, I think the first order of business is for you to make a hierarchy of your interests and responsibilities. You can take a few minutes. You can go ahead, pause the video right now if you want to, or wait till the end, and ask yourself, what is most important to me? And make a list top to bottom in order of importance. And this is what's going to help you create your personalized strategy. Your hierarchy of interests is essentially an order of importance on what you want to allocate the most amount of time to. So now that you have an order of importance, you can go ahead and start setting up a schedule. Now, time blocking, you've probably heard from every internet self-help guru that you've ever watched, but there's a reason that everybody says it. It's because it's very effective. So know what your days are going to look like. Allocate a certain amount of time to each discipline, to each interest and responsibility based off of your order of importance, based off of the goals that you have in each respective field. That way you can drive progress, and you can drive progress most in what you value the most. So that's pretty straightforward. I recommend using a Google Calendar. You can even just use the Notes app on your phone in the beginning if a Google Calendar seems intimidating. Getting very organized and color coordinating and whatnot. Honestly, it doesn't have to be that difficult. For years, I used a Notes tab in my phone, and it's pretty effective. Okay, so now you know how to manage your time with regards to your interests, but how about the most practical way to make progress in them as far as managing goals go? Now, for me, what I personally use is a quarterly life audit. I've created a workbook based off of the system that I used, so you can go ahead and click the link in the description to get your workbook completely for free and use that as the place to do your life audit and set your goals and track them. Now, that's exactly what I use the life audit workbook for. Every quarter, upon reflection, I will set goals that I know are attainable and measurable. You can use this acronym that you've probably heard, but if not, it's pretty valuable. It's called SMART goals. And then once you have those goals, you can reverse engineer them to decide how much time you need to allocate per week. So for me, it's 5 days training on the mats for jiu-jitsu. It's minimum 1 video per week. It is piano minimum about 20 minutes a day to at the very least keep my skills where they are, since that's pretty low on my order of importance for my interests hierarchy. For the gym, it's 2 to 3 days a week. For adventure, it's at least 1 big adventure every other month. For finances, I have certain goals. These are just some examples. Then I can go back and track my numbers and see if I'm on pace to hit the goals I have of 250 hours on the mat at the end of the year, of 52 YouTube videos by the end of the year, of X amount more dollars in my savings account by the end of the year. Now, these goals that you have, these numbers that you've set for yourself, sometimes there's going to be something on your calendar for one of your interests that might demand what's called a season of imbalance. So let's pretend that jiu-jitsu is third on my list of priorities. Well, if I have a competition coming up, for the 2-3 weeks leading up to the competition, I'm going to have a little bit of a season of imbalance where I'm going to focus a lot more on my training than I otherwise might. And that's because I have a big event pertaining to that interest. If I'm a pianist who takes gigs sometimes and I have a wedding coming up, I don't actually do this, but let's just pretend for the sake of an example. If I have a wedding coming up and I only do like 2 or 3 weddings a year, maybe I'm going to spend a lot more time practicing piano for the 2-3 weeks leading up to that wedding. So I really like this concept of a season of imbalance because sometimes we need to prioritize something a little bit more due to a milestone, an event that's coming up on the horizon. Perhaps we're a few weeks away from the cold weather coming in. I might be spending a lot more time on finishing the cabin that we're building on that land. Now, that doesn't mean I'm neglecting all my other interests altogether. It just means that I'm allowing myself permission to allocate more time to the particular interest related to the event or the milestone on the horizon in my calendar. I'm allowing myself to give more time to that thing for just a small season of imbalance, maybe 3 to 4 weeks. But I guess it would be context sensitive depending on what your event is. So that just about wraps up all the steps involved in managing many interests and responsibilities and all the pragmatic stuff. Now, before I go, I just want to give a bit of a warning. Beware shiny object syndrome. As people who have an affinity to be interested in many things, it can be very easy to get distracted by something that looks appealing. Maybe it's a new hobby, maybe it's a new side hustle. And we get distracted by it because it's new and it's kind of refreshing and maybe it looks actually like a good opportunity. And so we allow ourselves to allocate time to this new shiny object. But there's this phenomenon where you kind of jump from discipline to discipline to discipline and you don't actually make any progress in any of those things. You're just jumping around from one to another. Now, I'm not telling you not to try anything new. If something looks like a good opportunity, by all means, investigate it, give it some time, see if it interests you. However, if you already have things that you know you value, try your best not to let yourself get distracted simply because something is a shiny object. So maybe this makes sense to you. Maybe you've experienced jumping from side hustle to side hustle to side hustle and never really buckling down on one thing. If so, be aware of that. Don't let yourself get distracted by the fact that it's new and refreshing, especially when you already have things that you find valuable that you want to allocate your time to. A lot of people don't even have that luxury. A lot of people are kind of still aimlessly wandering, not knowing what they're passionate about, not knowing what they enjoy. So if you have multiple of these things, consider it a blessing, and kudos to you for going to find those things that you enjoy. But try not to get distracted by a new shiny object. All right, guys, thanks for watching this video. I hope you find a lot of use out of this. Make sure to go get your free life audit workbook in the description down below. It's very valuable for managing multiple interests, but it's also valuable for simply reflecting on what you truly find to be valuable. So I highly recommend going to get yours. I highly recommend filling it out probably once a quarter is best. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. And remember, a jack of all trades, but a master of none, is still better than a master of one. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care. I will see you in the next one.